In this lesson, you're going to learn how to use keyframes on custom adjustment layers, filters, how to create this cool effect with the social media icons, and how to make a color changing text. Let's now use keyframes for color grading. To do that, it's pretty easy. We go on adjustment, we create an adjustment layer. An adjustment layer, to put it in simple words, changes every single stat of colors, brightness, and whatever that is under the adjustment layer. If, for example, I put the saturation to the max, if I move out of the adjustment layer, it doesn't affect. Below this, it does. That's how simple it is. And a cool way to use this is if, for example, if you're creating a meme that involves a black and white screen, you usually want to fade it. Usually you don't want something like this to happen, where it instantly becomes black and white, but you may want to fade it. And how do we do that? We go at the start of the adjustment layer, we click a keyframe on saturation, and then we go at the end and we click a keyframe with the lowest saturation. And as you can see, the video slowly becomes black and white. If you want to, you can also use the keyframe animations and the graphs right here as well. We can, for example, choose a pre-made graph, for example, an ease in 3. What this means is that at the start it remains pretty constant, and at the end it becomes black and white all of a sudden. As you can see right here, it becomes black and white only at the end. You can also readjust it to your preferences if you like. As a side note to color grading, I also want to let you know that there are different kind of filters that you can use, which are pre-made adjustment layers. And for example, there is this kind of black and white. And if you want to recreate the same kind of effect that we created earlier with that custom adjustment layer, all that you need to do is put the strength to the lowest. Then you go at the end and you put the strength to the max. And as you can see, it is going to slowly become black and white. And again, if you want, you can use the graph. That comes down to your personal preference. A quick side note, I'm not using stickers because the way keyframes work for stickers is the same as it works for images and videos, so it's useless to talk about them. And now let's move on to text. Let's type in, for example, Yehi, I don't know. And what we want to do maybe is create a rainbow text. What do I mean by rainbow? I mean that it changes color constantly. So we could go at the start, we select white, for example, we hit a keyframe, then we go a bit forward and we create an orange. The keyframe automatically creates, then we do red, green, pink, and then it becomes white once again. So what's going to happen is this. As you can see, it shifts color. And if you want, you could copy all of these keyframes by holding Ctrl, and then at the end hitting C, and then you can extend this as much as you want, and then copy the keyframes, and you get a text that changes color constantly. Now that you know how to add keyframes to basically everything, and how to make color text, I'm not gonna bother you explaining how to use opacity keyframes and position keyframes on text again, because they work exactly the same in videos and images. The only thing that I'm going to tell you is that you can use keyframes on every kind of feature that you have right here in the text. So you could make a 0 thickness keyframe and here a 100 thickness keyframe, and that would result in a stroke that is creating like that. And of course, it doesn't apply only to stroke. You can use it on the background, you can use it on the glow, you can use it on the shadows, everything. Everything has a keyframe option right here, and you can use it on every option. This is an animation that I had created for a trailer for one of my courses, and it basically goes like this. There is my voiceover, that in this case doesn't matter, and then there are the icons of the social media popping up from the ground. And how do we do that? Well, it's fairly simple. To do that, we go at the start of every single image and we put the scale down to 0. We cannot go to 0, we'll take it to 1, but as you can see, no one can see the logo from normal distance, okay? You can also toggle down the opacity. Once you have done this, you choose a random icon. For example, I'll choose Twitter, and I'll make sure that Twitter is the first one to appear. So how do we do this? We put a keyframe on scale and opacity. Then we go a couple of frames forward. Let's do 3. And the opacity goes up to 100. And then we go a bit more forward and the scale goes up to, I'd say, around 14. And then we slow it down and we put a keyframe on 10. And then we go another couple of frames forward and we reduce the scale. So this is what we get. As you can see, the icon becomes bigger and then becomes smaller. Nice. And we're going to do this for every single icon that we have. So we go on the last keyframe and we put, for example, the Instagram logo here. Then we copy and paste all the keyframes. We go on Instagram, we paste, and then we do the same thing. Once we have done this to all of them, we align them to the same length. Looks decent, but we want to improve this even more. And to do that, I'll go on audio and search for a pop sound effect. And there we have our pop, and this is the final result, which makes this perfect. To summarize, in this lesson you have learned how to use keyframes on custom adjustment layers, filters, and text. You have also learned how to do this cool effect with the icons popping up. Therefore, I wish you a good editing.